Good afternoon, everyone. This is our special council meeting of Tuesday, March 18th at 3:30 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order at 3:31 p.m. and acknowledge that all members of council are present except for Councillor O'Leary, who does send his regrets. We're on to item 2, which is the adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover for the recommendation, please? Deputy Mayor Laux, seconder, please. Councillor Simpson. That the agenda for the special council meeting held on Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Any questions on the agenda? All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interests. If you find yourself at that time in any time during the meeting, please declare. I don't assume there are any at the moment. Seeing none. And we're on to presentations. So 4.1 is a presentation from Aqua. And we have Aqua here attending, and I believe you do have a slide deck as well. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. So whoever would like to speak, you can either come to the podium, or if you'd like, you could sit at the table, whichever you prefer.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Council, and town staff. My name is Carolyn McRae, Regional Manager with the Ontario Clean Water Agency. It's nice to see everyone today. Today we also have Charlie Bowler behind me, who is our Senior Operations Manager for your facilities. We also have Kristen Tolota, who is our Safety Process Compliance Manager, along with Richard Junkin, who is our VP of Operations, who are here to assist with answering any questions you may have during the presentation. We are here today to present to you the 2024 regulatory reporting requirements and results for the Township of Adjala. Prior to starting, I would like to address Aqua's error in report delays, and we do have slides that speak to this later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Today, I'm going to begin with a brief overview of the Ontario regulations and reporting background in Ontario. We will cover the following topics: Ontario regulations and reporting, Ministry MECP drinking water inspections, Section 11 annual reports, Schedule 22 summary reports, reporting requirements, and facility results. Slide 3, please. Before we dive into the annual reports, I wanted to take a step back and provide some background information on the Ontario Acts and regulations. 30 years ago, there were only 2 acts in place to regulate drinking water systems: the Ontario Water Resource Act and Health Protection and Promotion Act. After the Walkerton outbreak happened in 2000, the Safe Drinking Water Act was implemented in 2002. From that act, a few regulations were implemented in 2003, including Ontario Regulation 170, which outlines the drinking water system requirements in terms of treatment, chemical water sampling, operational tasks, continuous monitoring, equipment, compliance, reporting. An important factor for all drinking water systems is for certified operators to operate them. Certification criteria is outlined in Ontario Regulation 128. Along with regulations, there are other requirements established for drinking water systems, such as the Drinking Water Works Permit, the Municipal Drinking Water License, and the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard. All of these were implemented to provide a better multi-barrier approach to providing safe, clean drinking water to the public. Slide 4, please. Moving on to the 2024 reporting requirements, there are 3 main reporting requirements outlined in Ontario Regulation 170.03. Schedule 16, the Adverse Water Quality Incidents, AWQIs, which summarizes the quality of the treated water. Section 11, Annual Reports, which summarizes the quantity of raw and treated water. Schedule 22, Summary Reports, which summarizes the quantity of raw treated water produced by the facilities. Next slide, please. The Ministry of Environment MECP inspection reports, Section 81 of the Ontario Regulation 17003 under the Safe Drinking Water Act requires annual inspections of the MECP for the following drinking water systems: Everett, Weka, Colgan, Lyle, Rosemount, and Hockley. The inspection summary outlines all aspects of the multi-barrier approach, source water protection, treatment, distribution, monitoring, and management practices. Next slide, please. Aqua submits the Section 11 annual reports on behalf of the township. The township and MECP receive a copy of the completed reports on February 28, 2025. There is no regulatory requirement for municipal council to review the Section 11 annual reports. Next slide, please. Section 11 annual reports includes a brief description of the drinking water systems, chemical used for treatment, a description of the major equipment related to expenses, a summary of the report's notices submitted to the Spills Action Center, and any corrective actions taken. It also includes a summary of test results required by the regulations. Next slide, please. Aqua prepares the Schedule 22 summary reports on behalf of the township. Aqua submitted the Schedule 22 reports to the township on March 4th, 2025, and each year offers to attend council to present or provide support answering any questions. The township ensures a copy is submitted to members of the council for review no later than March 31st of each year. This information in the report helps the township assess the capabilities of the drinking water systems to meet existing and planned uses. The Schedule 22 summary reports includes a summary of non-compliance with regulations and corresponding corrective actions. Aqua self-reports to promote transparency. Self-reporting builds trust with clients, the MECP, and shows that we are being proactive. Self-reporting tends to result in higher inspection ratings. Raw water volumes, average daily versus permit to take, maximum daily volume versus permit to take, and treated water volumes, average daily volumes versus municipal drinking water licenses, and maximum daily volumes versus municipal drinking water licenses. Here are some definitions that are important for understanding the terminology used in our reports. Adverse water quality incidents, an AWQI, and is an event that suggests the drinking water system may not be providing water that is safe for users to drink. A non-compliance is a regulatory requirement was not met. Self-reported incidents is Aqua interprets the regulations and notifies the MECP of any incidents that could be interpreted as a non-compliance. Next slide, please.
You can go 2 slides.
Oh, sorry.
One more slide, please. Thank you.
The Everett Drinking Water System annual and summary reports. Notably, there were no adverse water quality incidents reported in 2024, and all laboratory test results fell within the regulatory limits. The summary report also highlights a perfect inspection rating and 0 non-compliance issues. Next slide, please. Here we dive into the self-reported incident, which is again a great example of self-report incidents where we receive 100% inspection rating and no non-compliances. Notifications were sent demonstrating our commitment to transparency and communication. The actions taken by Aqua to identify and address the maintenance needs underscores our proactive approach to our water system management. As per OREG 170, a monthly raw turbidity sample is required to be taken from each well supplying the system. In November 2024, the monthly raw water turbidity sample was unable to be taken due to well maintenance. The ballpark well was offline for maintenance repairs from November 4th, 2024 to December 4th, 2024. There was initial troubleshooting and identification required for the maintenance repair, notification, and then a well pump replacement to be brought back online December 4th. There were no further actions required by the MECP. Next slide, please. The township approved the work for the maintenance repair of the well on November 12th, 2024. The well pump was replaced and the well was brought back online December 4th. Aqua collected and scheduled the regulatory monthly samples for December for the well. Since December, there have been no issues with the well. Maintenance repairs on the ballpark well did not affect the system's ability to provide safe drinking water to the residents. The issue with the well was not due to an error of operations or maintenance, and Aqua proactively notified that a sample would not be collected for November. Aqua provided notification and followed up confirmation that the well would be not online in time to collect the sample to meet the regulatory definition of monthly sample for November. Next slide, please. The WECA drinking water system, AWQS in 2024 was 1, and all other laboratory samples test results were in the regulatory limits. The inspection rating was 95.77. The number of non-compliances was 1. The daily raw volume was within the allowable maximum volume for all sources, and the daily water volume was within the rated capacity for the system. Next slide, please. Here's the background on the THMs in the drinking water system, which are a group of compounds that can sometimes be found in source water with high levels of organic material that are disinfected with chlorine. THMs are formed when chlorine reacts naturally with occurring organics in the source water. The formation of THMs is dependent on several factors, including temperature, organic matter, the water source, distribution system factors, chlorine contact time. It is critical that any method used to control the formation of THMs must not compromise the effectiveness of disinfection. Next slide, please. The regulatory requirements requires that one distribution sample be tested for THMs every quarter. The sample is to be collected from a location at the highest potential level of THMs. As such, it is unlikely that the results of the samples are representative in the rest of the system. The regulatory limit for THMs is based on a running annual average, RAA. A single result above the limit is not an exceedance. The RAA limit for the THMs is 100 micrograms per liter. The RAA limit represents a level of exposure Health Canada has deemed acceptable throughout a life and not to cause an increased risk to the health. Next slide, please. The health information available is there's no established adverse health effects associated with short-term variation in the THM levels. The health risks are much less than the risks from consuming water that has not been disinfected. Next slide, please. Here is where we focus on the adverse water quality incident related to the THM levels in WECA drinking water system. The summary indicates that the RAA for the THMs exceeded the regulatory limit, prompting notifications to authorities. The actions taken, including implementing a monitoring program, adjusting operational process, demonstrates our commitment to addressing water quality issues proactively and effectively. The RAA for the THMs as of April 2024 was 101.25 micrograms per liter. This was the first RAA exceedance for WECA in the last 10 years of data. Written notification provided to the MECP, SAC, MOH, and the township on November 28th. The following actions have been taken to reduce the levels. An MECP and MOH approved monitoring program has been put into place above the legislative requirements from one quarterly average to monthly with 4 sample locations. More stringent distribution flushing monthly, adjustments of operational process, such as lowering chlorine doses while still providing effective treatment, additional treatment processes ready to add to the system awaiting MECP approval, and a new source well scheduled to be commissioned in 2025 awaiting MECP approval. Next slide. Continuing with the WECA drinking water system, this slide outlines the resolutions and results of the actions taken regarding the THM levels. The positive outcome with all the samples collected since April 2024 falling below the regulatory limit reflects the effectiveness of the measures implemented. A written summary of the THM's reduction activities to date and additional planned reduction activities will be provided to the MECP in April 2025 for review. At this time, the MECP and the MOH do not require any further actions from Aqua. All actions taken were based on reports recommendations from the MECP for strategies to minimize the THMs. A 10-year historical review showed that this was the first and only instance where the RAA-THM level was greater than the regulatory standard. There are no established adverse health effects associated with short-term variations in the THM levels. Samples are collected from points in the system with potentially for the highest THM levels and likely not representative with the typical in the majority of the system. Concentration of TFMs within the drinking water system may vary significantly over time. Next slide, please. This slide addresses the non-compliance issues related to the WECA drinking water system, specifically concerning the delays in notifying authorities about the adverse water quality incident. The actions taken by Aqua to improve the data review and reporting process demonstrates our commitment to compliance and transparency. Tools, methods, and expectations for data review and reporting were thoroughly reviewed with all relevant staff. A debrief with staff was conducted and actions for performance improvement have been completed and implemented to ensure compliance. Aqua's team has acquired additional resources to support timely data review and reporting, enhancing our capacity to meet the regulatory requirements. Since November, reporting for the system has been completed within the regulatory timeframe. This improvement demonstrates Aqua's commitment to compliance and operational excellence. The additional resources and refined procedures have enhanced our data review and reporting process, ensuring timely and accurate submission. Moving forward, we will continue to monitor and refine our practices to maintain a high standard of performance. Next slide, please. In this slide, we provide the annual and summary report for the Colgan drinking water system. The absence of adverse water quality incidents in 2024 and compliance with the laboratory sample results highlight the system's effectiveness. The pending inspection rating and 2 self-reported incidents indicates areas for ongoing monitoring and improvement, ensuring we maintain a high standard in water quality management. In discussions with the MEC inspector, we hope the rating will be received by March 31st. The MEC inspector indicates overall a positive outcome, and based on everything reviewed so far, it would appear to be 100% with no non-compliances. And the MEC inspector is also happy with Aqua's, and the township has addressed many of the management practices from previous inspections. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the self-reporting incident involving a phone line outage at the Colgan 3 standpipe pumping station. This outage was caused by a non-payment from the developer lasting several days without generating alarms. Notification to the MECP and the township reflects our commitment to transparency and accountability. Continuous monitoring and communication with the developers were crucial in resolving the issue to ensure system reliability. The Bell phone line was out of service from April 27th, 2024 to May 9th, 2024 due to non-payment from the developers. During this timeframe, no alarms were generated for the Colgan 3 standpipe pumping station. Initial notification was provided to the MECP and township. Aqua confirmed that continuous monitoring data was still recording during this timeframe. Aqua reviewed and continuously to monitor the data at the start and end of each shift until alarming capabilities were restored. Aqua initiated communication with the developers regarding the need for the Bell line to be reinstated, and the township followed up with the developers as well. Next slide, please. Continuing with the self-reported incident, the slide details the resolution and relevant findings. The confirmation of alarms were functional upon restoration of the phone lines indicate an effective system management. The review of the monitoring data within the required timeframe further emphasized our commitment to maintaining operational integrity and ensuring safe drinking water for the community. Next slide, please. This slide presents the summary of the second self-reporting incident involving the sodium analysis. The incident highlights the importance of accurate documentation and communication in the water quality management. The sodium analysis for the sample collected on October 21st, 2024 was not conducted due to a labeling error. The initial notification was provided to the MECP on January 31st, 2025. Aqua collected a new sample February 3rd and sent to the laboratory for analysis. However, the date of the sample was outside of the regulatory timeframe. The actions have been taken, including staff training, improvement sampling protocols, debrief with corrective actions, and appropriate demonstrating our proactive approach to preventing future occurrences and ensuring compliance within regulatory standards. Next slide, please. This slide is a continuation regarding the second self-reporting incident, focusing on the actions taken and the resolutions achieved. The implementation of performance improvement actions and the additional resources reflect our commitment to enhancing operational efficiencies. The resolution indicates that all samples have been collected and verified and ensure that the sodium levels remain within the safe limits and do not pose a risk for public health. A historical review confirms that prior to this incident, there were no missed laboratory samples for the system. Sodium is not a toxic, and the average intake of sodium from water is only a small fraction of what is consumed in a normal diet. In all the years Aqua has operated this system, sodium levels for the Colgan drinking water system have never exceeded the aesthetic objective. Sodium levels in the Colgan drinking water are naturally occurring from a raw water source. Next slide, please. In this slide, we provide an overview of the Schedule 22 summary reports on the Colgan drinking water flows. The report confirms that the system operated within the allowable raw and treated volumes in 2024. The mentions of emergency exceedance for large files or maintenance underscores the need for flexibility in our water management strategies while ensuring compliance within the regulatory limits. The MECP allows for daily volume flow rate exceedances for the purposes of fighting a large fire or maintenance of the system. Next slide, please. This slide continues the summary report on the Colgan drinking water system flows, focusing on well 3 and the combined performance of all wells. The data indicates that both the individual and combined system remain within their maximal allowable daily raw volumes. The explanation for the higher volumes due to the sandpipe filling and the emergency responses. Next slide, please. This slide provides an annual and summary report for the Lisle drinking water system with 0 adverse water quality incidents in the compliance with regulatory limits, the inspection rating of 95.47, and 1 non-compliance. Next slide, please. In this slide, we address the non-compliance incident involving the treated water in Lisle drinking water system. The incident was caused by a flow control valve failure, highlights the importance of prompt reporting and corrective action. The measures taken, including increased chlorine dosing, proactive system flushing, treated the free chlorine residuals within the MEC required range, and demonstrated our commitment to maintaining water safety and compliance with the regulations. Next slide, please. Continuing with the Lisle drinking water system non-compliance issue, this slide outlines the resolutions and relevant details, the restoration of the full disinfection and notification of results to authorities indicate effective management. Full disinfection was restored May 16th, 2023. Sample results returned from the laboratory with a negative presence. Notification of results was provided to the MECP and MOH, and no further actions from Aqua were required. The free chlorine residual in the distribution system indicates that the distribution system was providing safe drinking water. Next slide, please. This slide provides an annual and summary report for the Rosemount drinking water system. The perfect inspection rating and the absence of adverse water quality incidents reflects the system's effectiveness. Compliance with the regulatory limits for both raw and treated volumes underscores the commitment to delivering safe drinking water to the community. Next slide, please. In this slide, we present the annual and summary report for the Hockley drinking water systems. The number of AWQIs in 2024 was 1. All other laboratory samples results were within the regulatory limits. An inspection rating of 100 and 0 non-compliances and 1 self-reported incident. The daily raw volume was within the allowable amount for the source well. The daily treated was within the rated capacity. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the adverse quality incident. 166060 in the Hockley drinking water system. Notification of authorities and the issues of the boil water advisory demonstrates our commitment to public safety. The actions taken, including flushing and disinfecting, reflects our proactive approach to addressing the water quality issues and ensuring compliance with health standards. On August 21st, 2024, Aqua was notified that a distribution sample had a result of no data overgrown with the target bacteria. The initial notification was provided on August 21st to MECP back MOH. The boil water advisory was issued. Notices were hand delivered to residents and sample site tap was flushed and disinfected. Fluorine residuals were tested at the sample site and results were within range by the MECP and indicated that the water in the system was not compromised. A resample was collected and sent for testing. A review of the data from the treatment system and distribution systems indicate that the water was properly disinfected and the results were likely due to a contamination of the sample bottle at the time of sampling or during transport. Proper sampling techniques were reviewed with applicable staff. Next slide, please. Continuing with Hockley drinking water systems incidents, this slide presents the resolution and relevant details. The successful resampling of the results and lifting the boil water advisory indicates effective management in the situation. The explanation of potential cross-contamination for sampling error highlights the importance of rigorous testing and monitoring and maintaining water quality. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes the self-reported incident involving a phone line outage in the Hockley drinking water system. There was a Bell phone line outage which lasted for a period of time that did not trigger any alarms, raising concerns about system monitoring. The prompt notifications to authorities and actions taken to confirm system functionality demonstrates our commitment to transparency and integrity. Aqua responded on site to confirm that the alarms were not functioning, confirmed that continuous monitoring data was still recording during the outage, reviewed and continuously monitored the data at the start and the end of each shift until alarming capabilities were restored. Aqua monitored the Bell outage site for updates on repairs and time. Next slide, please. In this slide, we outline the resolutions and results of the self-reported incident regarding the phone line outage, the restoration of the alarm functionality, and the review of the monitoring data confirms the system's reliability. Our proactive approach to continuous monitoring and compliance with regulations ensured that we maintain safe drinking water for the community. The review of the monitoring data showed that there were no instances where an alarm would have been triggered. No further actions were required from Aqua. The drinking water system provided safe drinking water during this time. Regulations require that continuous monitoring data must be reviewed within 72 hours. Aqua proactively review the results twice a day, start and end of shift every weekday. Next slide, please. This is the final slide that summarizes the key topics covered during our presentation, including the Ontario regulations, MECP inspections, annual reports, summary reports requirements. And that concludes our presentation, if there's any questions for us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that information. It's very thorough information presented to council this afternoon. I'm going to do a wee bit of procedurally tweaking this. We're going to put a motion on the floor to receive the presentation, and then we're going to go into the staff report. And if there's any questions with regards to the item, both are hand in hand. So we'll address any questions at that time. So council, there is a recommendation that the presentation from the Ontario Clean Water Agency be received. Do I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Borzos, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Laux. And all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, so we're on to public comment. So members of the public may request their comments to be read by the clerk or present their comments orally. Only public comments related to an item on the agenda listed as staff reports, correspondence, and bylaws will be considered. Members of the public wishing to submit public comments can do so in writing to our clerk no later than 2 hours prior to today's scheduled meeting time. So first I'll go to anyone in the audience wishing to speak. Are there any persons in the audience wishing to provide public comment this afternoon? Yes, Ms. Budgell, please come to the podium, please. And can you just ensure the green light is on the mic, please? No.
There we are.
There you go.
Yes, okay. Thank you. And good afternoon. I had a presentation on trihalomethanes, and thank you for your report. It was very good. Okay, you speak really quickly. I just thought in case what I could probably do is just give it to Robin, and maybe you could share it if you would like. Basically, it's just saying what are trihalomethanes, what are the 4 different types of them, and the fact that THM can be ingested by not just drinking water, but by eating foods that are subjected to THM, breathing air that has it, and also absorbing it through the water, through the skin, either with swimming or with bathing. And then there are 4 possible treatments, which I'm sure Aqua knows all about. So I did have 4 very short questions, if I could propose them to you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to know what is considered long-term and short-term, because I hear that both talked about the effects of long-term or short-term. I just wonder what that means.
We're not going to answer the questions on.
Oh, okay.
So if you-
How could I get answers to these questions then?
They may be addressed later on through this meeting.
Okay,
If
all
not,
right.
we can
So
make it-
that is a question. And when it's long-term or short-term, what about the effects on an adult or a child or a baby or a pregnant woman? Because one of them is a real problem for pregnant women. The other thing is the maximum THM allowed in Canada is 100 micrograms per liter, but in the US it's 80 micrograms per liter. So who's right? Where has most of the research been done? And I'd like to know what type of THM was found in the WECA system, because I don't think that was clear. I didn't know which of the 4 types was found in there, and they all seem to have different effects. And then my last question, I see that only because I was very involved in this 20 years ago, I see that fluoride levels are measured. I'd like to know if fluoride is added to any of the water in Adjala-Tosorontio. Otherwise, if it is, you'll be getting another presentation from me. So I really want to know is if fluorosalicylic acid is added to the water, which the EPA says is a hazardous waste. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other persons in the audience wishing to speak this afternoon? Okay, seeing none. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any comments in writing?
Through you, Your Worship, 5 public comments were received regarding item 6.1, staff report IND 2025-008, 2024 drinking water regulatory reports. The first is from Joy Webster. It reads as follows. Madam Clerk, can I please ask for clarification around this post and meeting? When you look at this post, do we know this is a water meeting? I think not. It's a special meeting and not transparent in this post. You want people to click the link, maybe in bold letters, a water meeting might have helped. The reason why is water and wastewater is affecting people so badly. They're selling their homes, their dishwashers are breaking, causing calcium buildup, and their taps are eroding, all the finishing off. Why have water meeting midweek and midday? Is this allowing for the public to truly be engaged with the water process? Your residents are struggling to pay bills and put food on the table. You realize that. What is your plan B? Have you looked at the economy lately? We are in a trade war. Are people going to purchase new homes in a strained economy? How many of you around the table are on water and wastewater, both? Do you know in Mono that the municipality never signed off on an SWTP, call them so smart, built in the 2000s by Brookfield? The municipality never signed off on a SWTP, never working, right? Food for thought. We bought and built our home in 1999 with a handshake from Ralph Orsi in the basement of a home on Moore Street, paid all the developer charges and hook up to water. We had septic. Mr. Orsi told us there will not be enough homes to sustain a big community and did not sugarcoat it. He told us you have to travel for recreation, good Catholic grade school, and so much in the area outdoors. Development does not make a municipality in the longer term due to maintenance. Everett is a perfect example with the Deckers Street pump station. Cogan now has a huge problem. Then 10 years later, we moved to Pine River Estates. We have to pay for a well and septic to be fixed, a responsibility as homes. After Walkerton, water users paid for water simple. So understand, we have been water users and well users, always paid our bills and also fixed our own well. So to hear my taxes could be current going to water users when my taxes are meant for water was unbelievable. My taxes should be going to fire, roads, bridges, etc. Please explain in detail under the Ontario legislation how much of my taxes are not going to water users in any way as a well user. Pretty simple question. I expect a very detailed answer and reflecting the legislation after the deaths in Walkerton. Is my taxes going on any way to water or wastewater? I'm not paying 2 times, first while developing and then our second home while on well and septic. I do not want to hear a cent of mine is going to water users when I have already paid for the water and now on a well. There is legislation to deal with this. Water pays for water. My taxes fixes things like bridges and roads. Please explain exactly what is happening to my tax dollars and confirm that $0 from my taxes is going to water and wastewater, whether is reserve of otherwise, no kiting money or sending it to reserves. There are rumors flying around and your letter will be specific. The second public comment received is from Doris Sedger in Lyle. It reads as follows. Good day, council members, Aqua representative and attending concerned residents. I'd like to address council and Aqua regarding this Tuesday, March 18th meeting at the Township Hall. As a resident on the Princess Drive on the Lyle Township Pump House well, I would like the following questions and my concerns be acknowledged and hopefully answered. For 27 years, my husband and myself, our children, and our now grandchildren have counted on clean water to serve us. And for those same number of years, I've continuously had a difficult time finding out the most recent water test results pertaining to Pump House at the end of Princess Drive in Lyle. In this day and age of new tech computer systems, all residents should be able to have access to most recent results in the water we are drinking and depend on. I'm frustrated in the fact that when I approached the Township Hall receptionist asking to inquire about the latest water quality due to the consistent smell of chlorine in our water, I was just given a phone number and told to call Aqua directly. I'd have to ask Aqua to answer my questions. It's been 2 weeks and I've not received a response. To me, that's not acceptable. I scoured the Township website and found Aqua water report posted from 2023, none for 2024. I approached a couple of council members and they were perplexed as well. Since my inquiry, Aqua has recently posted their most up-to-date 2024 findings. In my view, posting Aqua results or findings once a year seems to barely cover, quote, open disclosure, end quote. I would have expected postings on a daily or weekly reporting system, expecting to see test results and or abnormalities and inefficiencies. I would like to put forth the following questions before council and the Aqua in hope of explanation. Number 1, how often are the water tests being done and should they be done daily or weekly? Number 2, if there are dangers that supersede the government's allowable, quote, health compromise and danger limits, end quotes. And then what steps are now in place to notify residents of the dangers in their water system? And how is the caution health information sent out to residents, as well as an explanation what is being done to remedy the health concern? Number 3, I'd like to ask why residents are not able to easily, if at all, find out the water quality test results. It seems that the Township office doesn't have access to clear and concise availability of the records either, other than the yearly report. Surprisingly, I was told to call Aqua directly for information. Again, I should be able to get that information from my Township directly. Number 4, why are there, quote, most recent, end quote, water quality test results posted on the Township website? Quote, once a year, end quote, report does not seem to work. Why is there not a daily or weekly report? In my view, transparency is the issue. In this issue has been an ongoing thing as long as I've lined up here. I just asked that the water test results be posted and be more current, up to date, and posted on the website. Residents like myself should be able to review any and all results. I think posting this information is responsible and fairly simple and common sense request for any concerned resident. I look forward to council and Aqua's explanation and updates. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Doris Sedger. The third public comment received is from Tamara Stewart, 5 Simon Drive, Loretto. It reads as follows. Over the past week, I reached out to the township of Adjala-Tosorontio regarding the serious issue of trihalomethanes, THMs, in the Loretto-Weka drinking water system. I first emailed on Thursday, March 13, 2025, and followed up on Saturday, March 15, 2025. Despite my outreach, I received no substantive response from the township or Mayor Scott Anderson. The only reply I received was from interim CAO Eric Wargo, was a brief acknowledgement stating that my concerns would be forwarded to Aqua. However, my questions were not just for Aqua. This is my second request for clear and direct answers to the following questions. Number one, failure to report the THM exceedance in a timely manner. Why was the THM exceedance not reported within legally required 7-day window? Why did Aqua fail to report the various exceedances to the township and by extension to the council prior to March 12, 2024? What disciplinary or corrective measures will be taken to hold Aqua accountable for this failure? Number two, contradictory reporting between Aqua findings and township summary. The Aqua report states the exceedance ran from July 2023 to November 2024, but the township summary stated it ran only from April 2024 to November 2024. Which version is correct? If the Aqua report is correct, how will this mistake be publicly corrected for council and residents? Will the township issue a public statement acknowledging a full timeline of exceedance? Number three, Aqua contract and tender process. Was the operation of our water system put out to tender? If so, on which date was this tender issued? On what date did council authorize Aqua as a provider? Which council meeting approved Aqua as an operator, and where can residents find this information? Which meeting approved the continuation of Aqua contract, and will the township provide a copy of the agreement? Number four, financial transparency and system costs. Will Aqua provide a full financial breakdown of how much it will cost to fix all water and wastewater systems in the township? Will this include an itemized breakdown of costs for each system? Number five, historical context of THM issues. What proactive measures are being taken by the township to prevent future occurrences? Given the Health Canada and the US EPA classify THMs as potential carcinogens, why was there no urgency in notifying Loretto residents sooner? Impact on residents and public health. Can the township confirm the potential impacts of using this water for pools, hot tubs, livestock, and gardens? Have any studies been done to assess the health risks of THMs in irrigation, animal consumption, and prolonged skin exposure? If no studies exist, will the township provide guidance to residents on whether it is safe to continue these uses? Number seven, lack of notification to council. When did township staff first become aware of the THM exceedance? Why was council not notified earlier, given that this was discovered in November 2024? Who made the decision to withhold this information from council? What measures will be put in place to ensure council is immediately informed of future drinking water issues? Number eight, financial and contractual repercussions. Will Loretto well users receive compensation or a rebate due to Aqua's failure to report this exceedance? Are there any penalties in Aqua's contract for this regulatory violation? Number five, township transparency and accountability moving forward. What specific policy changes will the township implement to ensure future exceedances are reported on time? How will the township rebuild public trust after failing to properly notify residents of this health concern? I expect full and direct answers to these questions, not silence. I expect council to publicly disclose through a staff report the actions taken to address these concerns and prevent such occurrences in the future. Additionally, the report should outline the financial impact on taxpayers and provide a timeline for when users of the Weka well can expect compensation for unknowingly being exposed to repeated exceedances of THMs in their water. Furthermore, a discount was provided to water and wastewater users in Colgan and Everett systems. However, this issue is far more urgent and critical with potential life-threatening consequences. Therefore, compensation for Weka users should not only be mandatory, but also significantly higher than what other municipal water and wastewater users have received. Mayor and Deputy Mayor, take this seriously. Finally, I'm requesting that Mayor Scott Anderson and Deputy Mayor refrain from engaging in side conversations, giggling or smirking while council members or other residents are addressing serious concerns at council meetings. I've repeatedly observed them doing this routinely when Councillor Bob Meadows speaks and is disrespectful and distracting to both council and members of the public. To Mayor Stewart. The fourth public comment received is from Floyd Pinto. It reads as follows. Number one, why did staff report attached to the water report that came to the March 12, 2025 council meeting not identify all the problems? Who prepared the staff report and why did they not feel the need to include all the concerns in the report? Number two, how much will it cost Aqua to fix all the problems at the wells and avoid this happening again? Who will pay all required repairs? Will council be provided a breakup of costs for each well? And will this cost be shared with all the residents? Number three, the council has frozen water and wastewater rates contrary to the water and wastewater rate report. Will these expenses be put on the 75% of residents on private wells, or will this be paid from the water fees collected from Colgan? Number four, how will these new expenses needed for fix the system affect the repayment of the loan taken from working funds? Number five, if this problem was identified from April 2023 to November 2024, why was this not discussed during budget discussions? Is providing safe drinking water not a priority of some on council or concerned staff? As had Bob Meadows not spoken up, this entire concern would have been ignored. Number six, is the Colgan walls being checked for THM as it is a Goody aquifer? Could Aqua please direct me to the page in their report as I cannot seem to find the readings for Colgan? Number seven, Mayor Scott Anderson stated the readings were 80 when in fact the report clearly states it's over the allowed limit of 100 and was in fact in the 126 range. Is Mayor Scott Anderson not reading important reports that affect our health of residents? And why is he insisting that the readings was 80 at the council meeting? Could Mayor Scott Anderson explain? Number eight, what penalties will be imposed on Aqua? Will Aqua be refunding part of the fees that Aqua charges to the township so that the refund can be paid to the affected users? Number nine, repairs were just completed to the Loretto WECA system. Why are these problems still occurring after spending all the money on the Loretto WECA system? I thank you for your time and I look forward to receiving answers to my questions. Thank you, Floyd Pinto. The fifth public comment is from Deborah Hall, 16 Lynch Lane, Everett. It reads as follows. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and special guests. In light of this meeting being called in the middle of the afternoon, I suspect it will leave many, like myself, unable to attend in person, which I'd hope of doing if this would have been scheduled for the evening, hence why I'm asking for my comments to be read out to you. I came to this township back in 2015 and settled into the New Horizons subdivision. Little did I know what in the next 10 years now of living here would bring both to my family financially with the water and wastewater costs each month and the impact health-wise this would have on members of my family. In light of these yearly reports coming out each year from Aqua, it becomes very clear to me that this agency represents a service to this community of keeping our drinking water system safe for users, advises the township on needed repairs, emergency repairs, and produces reports such as this one before us today. For the well, over $600K, we pay them yearly. Why is it I continue to have the following issues? Number one, October 2024, placed a call into Aqua call center regarding a very strong odor of chlorine. Got the call center, spoke to an admin that would pass it on. Also contacted my counselor Borzos that morning as well when I was leaving for work and left a message. Never did I receive a call back from him that day or other days after this. Unacceptable when it comes to drinking water. Aqua called twice that day to check in and provide the explanation that it had been resolved. So in light of this being the first time for me in regards to phoning Aqua regarding my water, I would like to make a very simple suggestion. Please, number one, in this yearly report, can I please ask resident calls without violating privacy information be logged in such a way there is a report attached to each water system, please. I cannot be the only one calling in, and it leads this council or township and its residents to gauge the effectiveness of service, quality of service by provider, and accountability. I believe this should be an easy ask for Aqua to achieve. Number 2, monthly summary of reporting for each area of the municipality in conjunction of the year report. I find it alarming, especially in Loretto and Rosemont, that certain levels are fluctuating to the point of for transparency. It is imperative these snapshots of levels are reported on our website each month under the wastewater and wastewater page for all residents to see. Number 3, New Horizons wastewater treatment plant is now beyond its life. April 14, 2017, staff suggested working funds be used to recoup costs as it is a catch-all fund for various projects in the township. Quoted article from the Allison Herald at this time. This system has been on the replacement books for a very long time. The township, Aqua, have been keeping this functioning for a very long time with no end date in sight. My bills have gone from $552 a quarter back in 2016 when I moved in, and well over $716 in the given quarter in 2025, where my taps are covered in white mineral buildup. My dishwasher filled after 3 due to mineral buildup. Toilets have been replaced. My coffee makers are all being replaced every 3 months in the house, and the washing machine has been repaired multiple times due to mineral buildup in drum. I will leave you with this thought. Crazy to think we pay all this money for water and wastewater and still have these failures as a result of the quality of water coming into my home. I can tell you what is more concerning to me is what we are doing to the community with the health of our appliances are telling us what we can see. Thank you for your time today, Debbie. Those were all the comments received, Your Worship.
Thank you. All right, so that takes us on to item 6, which is staff reports. So it is the same report that we seen here at council last Wednesday evening. Mr. Johnstone, would you like to provide any initial? Okay, thank you. So we've had the presentation from Aqua, and thank you very much for that as well. So I will open the floor to questions. Before I do that, though, I will suggest to council, Aqua is here to answer questions. If you wish for a staff member to answer questions, then please indicate before you ask a question. And then second of all, we are here to discuss quantity and quality concerns and not servicing. So we can certainly address those questions through other means if there are servicing questions, but quantity and quality through to Aqua, because that is what they do monitor for us. So I will open to the floor to questions, and Councillor Meadows.
Yeah, just on the statement you just made, Mayor Anderson, so we're not supposed to talk about servicing issues. I'm just wondering why, because it's all related. Obviously, there's issues with this report and servicing is required. So therefore, one goes hand in hand. So nowhere in the report when this came forward did it say we were not going to be talking about servicing issues. We were talking about budgetary issues. You definitely allowed that. So why are we not talking about servicing issues with regards to this?
Okay, thank you. So if you'd like me to clarify that, Aqua is not in charge of services and servicing. So that's what I'm trying to keep on topic here. They're here to answer our questions with regards to quantity and quality in the annual drinking water reports. So we can certainly have those discussions at another time for servicing and other aspects of building services or things like that. But we're talking about water, annual drinking water reports.
Well, can I just supplemental to your answer there?
You may.
If Aqua doesn't service our water systems, who services our water systems?
That's not what I said.
I'm sorry? That's exactly what you just said.
Talking about servicing. I'm not talking about providing services for drinking water quality. I'm talking about servicing. So if there's a misunderstanding there, I'm talking about the servicing of equipment and capital in our well systems. I'm not talking about water and quantity and quality and the services that Aqua provides to us.
Well, do they not fix?
I'm not going to argue back and forth on this. if there's a question that you ask, and I'm not going to allow it if it pertains to servicing, we're here to discuss the annual drinking water reports. And that is the staff report. So that is what I'm saying. We're going to stay on topic to the reporting of our drinking water systems. So any comments or questions? I'll go to Deputy Mayor Laux.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you for the presentation. I just had, when you went through the Colgan drinking water system, you named, look for the terminology of the rating, inspection rating. I didn't see or hear a inspection rating for the Colgan one. That was the only one. All the other ones had a 100 or 95 or whatever. I didn't see that in the report or hear it.
Your worship, to Councillor Locke's question, the MECP have a different inspection report timeline. So their reports begin in April, and they have until March 31st of the following year to inspect the systems and then provide the reports, which include the inspection rating. The annual drinking water inspection was completed in February, and the ministry is currently completing its report. And we expect that the inspection rating will be received by March 31st. I have had conversations with the inspector. He hasn't highlighted any non-compliances, and although not officially indicated a 100% inspection rating, we do foresee that that is what Colgan will receive. But the official report will come out by the end of this month.
Thank you. So ideally, you just didn't have a full year's worth of reporting to give a percentage, I guess? Does that sound right, or is that?
Sorry, they have a full year, so it's April 1st of 2024, or they go back to the time of their last inspection. So he has gone back to February 2024 and has reviewed all the information from February 2024 to February 2025. And then he has until the end of March 31st to produce the report for the previous year.
Thank you.
Which will include the inspection rating once it's finalized.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Cox next. We haven't tested the volume here yet, have we? So Councillor Cox, the floor is yours.
Does volume work?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Through the chair to the Aqua representative, my first question is, what is the standard operating procedure for reporting non-compliance, even for a 10-minute issue? Should the residents be notified? And is hand-delivered notices the standard practice? And I guess part of this is the township side, maybe the clerk could answer. Is this process work in conjunction with the communication officer as a first line of communication to our water users?
Okay, so I'll go to Aqua first as to what the process is for reporting and non-compliance issues.
Worship, I didn't catch your name, Councillor.
Councillor Cox.
In terms of non-compliances, for each system, there's a difference between non-compliances and AWQIs, which have an associated boil water advisory with it. So speaking specifically to non-compliances, that is in relation to where a regulatory requirement is not met. Typically, you have to make immediate verbal notifications to the ministry. And within 7 days of making your verbal notification to the ministry, you have to follow up with a written notification. Aqua's procedure is to include the township staff as well as the ministry on that written notification. In terms of boil water advisories and adverse water quality incidents, boil water advisories are only required in certain situations for certain systems. Large municipal drinking water systems, which Colgan, Everett are, have different regulatory reporting requirements than do the smaller municipal drinking water systems. And different parameters, we're talking about like total coliforms, E. coli versus chemical standards, have different regulatory requirements in terms of what constitutes a boil water advisory. In the situation of Hockley, because there was a result of no data overgrown with target bacteria in a small municipal drinking water system, where the possibility of E. coli, because it was no data basically produced, we were required to make a boil water advisory notification that is submitted. Sorry, under the regulation, it says we have to do everything reasonably possible to notify the users of the system. Aqua's best approach, specifically in Hockley, is to physically hand deliver notifications to the residents. We complete the sampling that's required under the regulations, and then when it is resolved, we physically go out and hand deliver notifications to the residents that the boil water advisory has been lifted. Boil water advisory only gets lifted when approved by the Ministry of Health.
Okay,
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back. I think Councillor Cox might have another question or follow-up, but just wanted to confirm. So Aqua delivers the hand delivers those notices, not township staff. Am I correct?
Aqua hand delivers those notices. In the case of Hockley, because there's fewer residents, we are able to achieve that with our own staffing. In the case of a larger system like Everett, hand delivery of notices may not be feasible, or if township requests that hand delivery is possible for, it depends if it's system-wide or just a small area of town. We could ask or reach out to township staff to help us if hand delivery is requested.
Okay, thank you. And through to Madam Clerk, would you like to comment on any further communications the township would put out if there was a boil water advisory?
I'm sorry, I would also like to include that we do include township staff, and I believe the communication officer on any notices that have to be posted on a township municipal website. I believe you would also post them. I've seen it posted on the township social media as well.
Yes. And generally speaking, council's aware of it too. So, Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through to Council, as the representatives from Aqua have said, as soon as township staff receives notification, typically through the Public Works Department, they are to notify communications, and then we use the appropriate tools such as the website and social media to push out the messaging that there is a boil water advisory in place. And then once that advisory has been lifted, we will then again push out the information through the website and social media that the boil water advisory has ended.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cox, follow-up or secondary supplementary questions?
Yeah, I do have a supplementary to that. So just to confirm through the clerk that the Aqua said it went to the communications officer, but then it actually goes to the Public Works first, then to the clerk's department?
Yeah, I believe multiple people are listed on the email, but generally it goes through Public Works. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we eliminate as many like additional lines of communication, so it gets like directly to the source that's going to broadcast to the residents, right?
And just a point of clarification through Your Worship to Councillor Cox, at the time of this incident last year, the communications officer had not been hired by the township, but now we have included that in our lines of communication with Aqua as well as a main contact.
Perfect. Excellent. And supplementary to Aqua, this may be, you know, a Aqua business question, but is there any potential on potentially creating like an app that water users that are you know with Aqua, because like you know the weather network gives me a notification if it's going to snow too much. I think you know drinking water safety is a little bit more important than if there's going to be a snowstorm, and I would think that Aqua should be making those maybe business investments to create an app that gives notifications that people can sign up to their local area and get instant notifications, and maybe even potentially upload reports at the same time if you know it's a digitized world where we're 2025.
Thank you. Would you like to comment? So you're gonna have to use mic actually. Sorry.
Yeah, so Aqua is, we certainly are trying to keep up with as much as we can. We are in we called our OTEP program, or Aqua's Tools Evolution Program. We're in the midst of that, and what you've spoken to, Councillor, is something that we're working on. It's hard to keep up with technology, not only on the notification front or on communications front, but just as a whole in the water industry. You can imagine how fast it is going, and how with technologies trying to keep up. Exasperated by the tariffs and because we do get most of our technology through the United States, it's going to exasperate some of that. But we are working towards better communications tools, and hopefully within a reasonable amount of time we'll have more real time. I'm not going to commit that we'll have real time reporting, because that's difficult. As I'm sure you're aware, our systems are all anything where there's an input, we can get an output. So Aqua can see it, and we can generate alarms, and we have SCADA systems, and being able to share that real time is certainly feasible with a cost. But until we can get that to a price point that customers can pay for that, we probably won't be doing it, but we are continually trying to improve that. So hopefully there will be some better and more timely reporting.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Councillor Cox?
Supplementary, as you're aware of my questions, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to attend. Would the fire hydrant question fall within the parameters of the discussion? Or should I just email that, or should I just email that directly to an Aqua representative?
We could probably address that one internally through Public Works.
Okay, excellent. Then no further questions. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Simpson, I have you next.
Through the chair. I hate to call out a report from staff at any point in a public forum like this, but I'm very concerned about this report that we got, because it didn't address the issues. And I understand that it's a 128-page report that we get from Aqua. I get it, but certainly, a cursory look of this report would have identified a lot of the issues for our staff. With regard to the WECA system, it was identified that trihalomethanes were elevated. The numbers were not discussed. The dates of those occurrences were not discussed. It was just noted that November 29th, 2024 is when that exceedance was reported. But the manner of the exceedance, the time frame of the exceedance, none of that is reported in this report. The issue with Colgan phone line malfunction, that's what we got in our report. It says it's a phone line malfunction. It wasn't a phone line malfunction, as we've just understood, because this report told us that, and the Aqua presentation told us, that the developers weren't paying the bills. Why are the developers not paying the bills? Why is it that we have that system set up in such a way where we can have a failure? We shouldn't be putting it in process and procedure are very important for our township, and we need to be making sure that we address it appropriately. So I'm very concerned about these reports. I would like our staff to pay more closer attention to the reports and bring it forward so that when council sees it, I read my reports, I read the 128 pages. I don't know how many other members of council do. But I think that's very important that within the staff reports that we have that summary, and that's captured there. Now, with regard to the Hockley water system, when we had that AWQI in the Hockley system, we certainly got it in August. Council did get an email. We were made aware. That was good. Why were we not made aware of the trihalomethane situation in the Loretto system, on the WECA system? Why were we not made aware of the exceedance? The other thing is, this exceedance is being treated as one incident from, one incident that is going on from July 2023 to April of 2024, and it's being treated as one. But you're also telling us that the exceedance needs to be notified on a 7-day. So every time there's a 7-day exceedance, that's an incident that needs to be made aware or told to us. So shouldn't that be, I mean, if you're looking at, this is what, July to April of 1 year, there's an exceedance. Shouldn't every 7-day period be considered an incident that council needs to be made aware of? Why were we not made aware of that? Because that's a very long term. And I know one of the comments that we heard today was from the public. What is considered long-term and short-term? So perhaps somebody from Aqua could answer that.
Your worship, to Councillor
Simpson.
I apologize. For the Weka drinking water system, there was only one exceedance, and that was based on the running annual average of trihalomethane sampling. The way that you calculate a THM, running annual average, is you take the 4 quarters of sample results. Each quarter, you shift it each quarter. So a sample was taken in July 2023, October 2023, January 2024, and April 2024. If you take all of the sample results, average it together by dividing by 4, the result produced a running annual average of 101.25, an exceedance of 1.25 micrograms per liter. So there was only one exceedance. Following this report and coming to council, I have reviewed 15 years worth of data for you guys so that you're aware of when THM sampling basically became a regulatory requirement for all municipal drinking water systems. In the last 15 years, this is the only exceedance of the running annual average that has occurred at Weka drinking water system. There have been 4 single sample exceedances in 15 years, but those are not considered exceedances with the regulatory requirements. 1 month where it exceeds 100 micrograms per liter is not an exceedance, because a running annual average can be affected by several, influences, which Carolyn had discussed in her presentation: temperature, pH, season, source, all of those factors. That's why the ministry and Health Canada allow for a running annual average.
Would a running average or annual running average be considered a long-term elevated incident?
I'm not sure if I'm in the best position to answer that. That would be more of a Health Canada health unit question, to be honest with you. I know that they include 4 quarters, but I don't think I'm the person to ask that. That would be more directed towards our health unit. Yes.
Okay. Subsequent question with regard to Colgan, is it normal for developer to be paying the bill for phone lines? Because as I understand it, this is a municipal system. I don't think this is a system that we're taking on from the developers, correct? Perhaps someone on staff can answer that, CAO?
Mr. Virgil?
Through your worship, I believe the phone line disconnect was at the pumping station, which was built by the developers and was during a maintenance period. So the township hasn't assumed that pump house.
So supplement, would it still be then in their discretion to pay these bills, or is it something that the township should take on and bill them afterwards?
Mr. Virgil?
Through your worship, It's certainly something we can look at. I have to look at the actual terms of the subdivision agreement as to what was required as far as maintenance. Typically, if the ownership of the facility is with the developer, they would naturally receive the bills. I believe Treasury is still looking at ways that we can possibly clarify responsibilities between the two parties in terms of subdivision agreements and how we can move forward from this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a couple questions as well. Just we're chatting about, well, there was a topic of WECA. So couple questions with regards to this. So the page I was referring to at the council meeting the other night was on page 13 of the report. And then and I'm just trying to understand this. So it's the quarterly reporting, and it indicates it's 81.75. And the maximum allowable, of course, has been acknowledged here is 100. So I was just so is that the running total of the quarter, the entire year, and not the quarter from the previous year to that? I'm assuming that's what that is. This is the actual 2024 reporting, and there was no exceedance in 2024, but the exceedance was 2023 through to 2024. Am I understand that correct?
Your worship, that's correct. So in the annual report, that RRA is from January 1st to December 31st, 2024. The exceedance occurred in April 2024 based on 2023 results and 2024 results.
Okay.
But that doesn't get reported in these, as the reporting timeline is January 1st to December 31st.
So the running total in 2024 did not exceed.
That is correct.
And that, okay, thank you. Second question with regards to that item, in the resolution comments, it indicated that 4 separate drinking water sampling locations, Aqua will be testing monthly. Could we indicate which drinking water systems those are happening at?
Your worship, to answer your question, part of the MECP report and in consultation with the Ministry of Health, they have suggested, in order to get a fuller picture of the THMs at the WECA drinking water system, they have asked Aqua to take 4 monthly samples from 4 separate sample stations in the WECA drinking water system. Specifically, those are the Joseph Street sample station, where we typically take our drinking water samples from, because that is the station that is furthest away from the treatment plant, and is where we're required to take samples. They've also asked for Keenan Street sample station. Keenan, Simon, and Willany Street sample station. There are only 5 sample stations in WECA, the 5th being Eliza. So we have been using Joseph Street sample station and 3 of the others for the monthly samples in January 2025, February 2025, March 2025.
And since this is March, we've had 2 months of testing. To your knowledge, has there been any exceedance, or has there been exceedance in those months at this time?
Your worship, to answer your question, we've had 3 months of sampling. January, the averages of all the 4 samples taken was 66.75. In February was 55.25, and in March was 64.75. So no exceedances.
Okay, thank you. And then the next set of questions, and Mr. Johnstone, you might be able to answer some of these as well. But first of all, I'll go back to Aqua. How often does the ministry inspect drinking water systems?
Your worship, to answer your question, the ministry is required to inspect municipal drinking water systems once between April 1st and March 31st of the preceding year. That is their calendar year.
Okay. And then second question is, how often does water testing occur at each of our pump houses?
Your worship, to answer your question, it would depend on the system and the type of sample that you're taking. For our large municipal drinking water systems, So that would be Aweka, Everett, and Colgan is now considered a large municipal drinking water system. We're required to do weekly sampling. Monthly sampling for the raw water sources, weekly sampling for the treated water and the distribution samples. The number of samples you have to take is dependent on the population of the system, with a minimum of 8 distribution samples a month, plus an extra distribution sample for every 1,000 persons serving the system. Additional sampling is performed based on the regulations for sodium and fluoride. That is required every 5 years because the characteristics of your water aren't going to change too much with a well water systems. For chemical parameters, so Schedule 23 and 24 for a large system, those are required every 3 years. And for a small municipal, your chemical parameters are required to be tested every 5 years. In terms of a small municipal drinking water system, we're required to sample for each source well, providing the system take 1 raw water sample per month. And then distribution sampling is required biweekly at these systems. Additional operational testing requires us to take distribution-free chlorine residuals in a large municipal system 7 times a week, 4 on one day, 3 on a different day, 48 hours apart. And for a small municipal drinking water system, we're required to take 3 distribution chlorine residuals per week, 2 on one day, 1 on another. In addition to all of the physical samples that we take and send to an external lab, we're also required to provide continuous monitoring and testing for treated water-free chlorine residuals at a minimum every 5 minutes. Aqua proactively samples these every minute of data.
Okay, that's communicated through SCADA then. Are those individual?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And to the last question then to Mr. Johnstone, how often does the township receive these test results from Aqua?
The chair, township receives results. This goes to various public works staff approximately once a week.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Borzos.
Thank you, through the chair. I just have maybe a couple of quick questions and maybe a suggestion or a comment. I was just wondering, with the THMs peaking at running average 101.25, statistically speaking, if you're going to do over the average on a 4-quarter basis, that means we were either peaking well above 100 and then other months we had lower levels, or we were peaking every single quarter of that particular period, right? That's how we're going to get to an above average or an above level average. So if it was peaking so much, so if it was at 100 or higher on every measurement quarterly, why would we not get results of such? I understand that the reporting requirement is one per year, but I would assume that, or I guess assume that if the level is higher on a consistent basis each quarter, then that would deserve at least a phone call to the township. So was there any consideration given to this, or is there any discretionary decision that Aqua could make in a situation like this, or what were even the numbers for that particular quarter when we had an average of 101.25?
Your worship, to Councillor Borzos. I got that one.
Thank you.
Question. For the running annual average exceedance in April 2024, it was based on the 4 results before that. If you pull up, I can give you the exact results. Sorry.
I believe that's in the report, right? It's on.
It is in the report.
Page 3 of the 14 of the one.
Yes, that would be in the Schedule 22. But I can go over them for you. This one here. So July 2023 was 92 micrograms per liter. October 2023 was 81 micrograms per liter. January 2024 was 126 micrograms per liter, and April 2024 was 106 micrograms per liter. producing an RRA of 101.25 micrograms per liter. So 2, basically, we're below the standard, and 2, we're above. But a single sample result does not constitute an exceedance, according to the ministry's guidance.
No, I understand that, but I mean, I'm thinking if January and April were consistent, because we can speak with some consistency there. If they were higher than the 100, that was the level, then perhaps maybe it's not a simple single sample, it's 2 samples back to back, 2 different quarters. So to me, that signals that the levels were actually fairly consistently higher than what they should have been. And I'm just curious if there was any kind of consideration given to this, or was just recorded as a number and then added to the average and then put into the report.
Your Worship, to Councillor Borges, based on the running annual average, the Ministry of Health is aware of the exceedance and has at this time advised us to start sampling on a monthly basis, 4 samples, in order to develop an action plan with a root cause analysis of what is causing these exceedances. We're not sure if it's a seasonal variation, a monthly variation. Is it a January thing versus an October issue? But in the interim, we've put in additional best practices to lower the quarterly results that we've been getting, including increased flushing activities. We've lowered our dosage of free chlorine, but not to the point where it compromises the safe drinking water of the system, because we do have to disinfect with chlorine to meet our primary and secondary disinfection requirements. Other things that we're doing is that in 2023, a new well was drilled in Weka, and we are waiting MECP approval to place that well online with the hope that a new source well may help decrease THM levels within the system. And then lastly, again, we're waiting on MECP approval, but potentially putting in sodium silicate in the system, which may help also decrease THM levels. But as per the MOH and the MECP, they've asked us to do this quarterly sampling to provide a more robust idea of when THMs are highest in the system. And we've been asked to produce a report to the MECP for April 15th, 2025, which includes all of the results from the monthly sampling and the actions that we're going to take to address this issue.
Thank you. Just a couple more. So, and then you mentioned earlier that you reviewed 10 or 15 years worth of water data specifically for THMs. So I'm just thinking, and it's just a suggestion, perhaps maybe some consideration could be given reviewing that data with specifically aiming into isolating the peak periods. To your point, if it's a winter issue, because it tends to be a colder temperature situation in January and even in April. So I don't know if that's something that you could do, but I think that would worth taking a look. And I was just wondering, Aqua being the largest water service provider in the province, have you considered soliciting the Ministry of Health or the powers to be in Queen's Park about lowering the THM levels generally for our requirements? I mean, in Canada, it's 100 micrograms per liter. In the US, it's 80. Half of Europe is between 25 and 50. So clearly, I mean, we are competing with countries like Colombia who are running at 125. So, I mean, it's nice that they have it, but maybe they don't have the resources that we would have or we have to lower the levels. So maybe we should just kind of tighten it up a little bit, so bring it a little closer to where it should be or lowest. Yes, sir.
Aqua does sit on many boards. We do have.
Yeah, sorry, Rich, can you just come up, use a mic? Sorry.
My voice is usually really does.
Sorry, through your worship to the Councillor Borsos, Aqua does sit on many boards, and we do advise and with our partners at the MECP. So we do have a voice. It's probably not, although we do have a voice, we are non-political in that we can't really have a dog in too many fights that way. But we do advise, and we do sit on, again, many boards, including AWWA and OWWA and many of those standing committees to talk about the science of it. We do have an engineering and an IPOTS division who we have utilized for townships uses before that can advise on that as well. And they're many times process engineers. None of us are, including me. So we can advocate. Certainly, I'm under the presumption that there's a balance struck by the MECP between cost and health and what those numbers should be. And you mentioned it earlier, there are jurisdictions with higher levels allowable and those with lower. So the solutions for trihalomethanes, it's something that's mostly inherent with surface water, not very often or not as often with groundwater. So there isn't a lot, there's the solution to it is a lot of flushing, and the problem generally is that water is sitting around water mains and it's allowing that reaction between the water and the chlorines to happen. So many times it is a maintenance thing or looping of water mains. There's all kinds of things that you can do to remedy it, and all of them come with a cost. So that's, it's not always about the money, but many times, there are pressures. Long answer to your question, but yes, we do have a voice. We do advocate, but things move at a glacial pace when it comes to regulations.
That's all great, but I think all it took is one Walkerton to get to where we are. So I'm not, equating our situation to Walkerton by any means, but who's to say that it cannot be?
Right.
At some degree, and all we need is one resident to get sick because of this situation or worse, and then we're going to have a problem, and then what are we going to do? So I don't think we should even looking at money in that sense. I mean, at least an idea as to what it would cost to make sure that we can mitigate this or lower it. And then the last question I have, you mentioned a bunch of reports. Sorry, yes, you did mention a bunch of reports and timelines that are being taken, like how often certain tests are being taken. Is there a comprehensive chart for this that we could have that outlines all the tests and the frequency of the tests and what they test for? I don't care if it's like 20 pages long.
Your Worship, to Councillor Boris, I can provide you with a chart of the sampling requirements for our municipal drinking water systems, if you would like that. They are all listed in OREG 1703, but okay. That's a long regulation to read and can be quite complicated to interpret. So if you would like me to provide you the sampling requirements.
An Excel spreadsheet, this is the test, this is what it tests for, this is how often we do it, and these are the limits.
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, further questions? Councillor Meadows?
Thanks. Going back to the trihalomethane levels, the measurements, 92, 81, 126, 106. I believe the first one was 95, but that's what I had in the report. And even one of them was 95, so I don't know. Anyways, can you give me those months again that they and the years they were done?
Your Worship, to Councillor Meadows. The first was in July 2023, October 2023, January 2024, and April 2024.
So those aren't consecutive months then?
Those are quarterly, so every 3 months.
Every 3 months?
Yep.
What were the levels in between there? Do you just do it every quarterly? Like you don't do it every month? If there's a problem found?
Your Worship, to Councillor Meadows, the regulation only requires us to sample every 3 months, so quarterly. But as of January 2025, under the direction of the Health Unit, we have been sampling monthly.
Can we get a copy of those monthly reports? Like, can when they come forward?
I can distribute it to the Public Works Department and James and Eric.
I'd like council to have a copy of it. It's just, I think it's very beneficial if we're talking to residents that we have the information provided.
I appreciate the question, Councilor Meadows. I just wanted to acknowledge that was one of the questions they did ask.
Yeah.
And they did provide the data for all 3 months.
They did, yeah, they did
So I just
provide the
wanted-
data for all 3 months,
Yeah,
but it was
so-
an
and we
average
would-
over 3 months.
Right.
And if
And we
you
would have, and through to James, we would have that information already, I'd imagine, because those would be included within our.
I guess what I'm getting at, your worship, is the fact that during those 3 months, there could have been other overages within those 3 month periods.
No, that wasn't the point.
I'm just saying,
asked-
there could have been more
Councilor
months.
Meadows, you had asked for the 3 months of recent testing because under the Ministry of Health that has asked for
The
January,
that's
February.
3 quarters.
And I was just commenting that had already been answered this evening now, over the last 3 months. And I didn't write them down, but the deputy mayor did.
That's nice.
So I'm just saying that information's been provided for us already today.
That's correct.
And Aqua can confirm that information with written documentation. But I just wanted to acknowledge that was already asked and answered.
Yeah, but I just wanted clarification, your worship,
Yes.
because it was the July 2023 was the first quarter. It
That was-
wasn't that's 3 consecutive testing. That's a quarter. It was three testing periods or 4 testing periods. I don't know. Okay. So I'm just wondering if there's any documentation out there that if there's a monthly testing period, okay, during July, I know it's a regulation says you only have to do quarterly, but if they looked into it, that's all.
Okay, so
That wasn't the question you asked. That's the question that I asked.
and to clarify,
Point of
Aqua,
order, I think Councillor Meadows has made his point across, and I think it's fair, the question that Councillor Meadows asked, where council gets those reports. Respectfully, Mayor, I think you're trying to take the direction somewhere else, and I'd like to hear from Councillor Meadows as it's his time. Thank you.
thank you, and I will rule on the point of order. It's not well taken. So just going back to the comments, so if I heard correctly just a few moments ago, you'd indicated that there is testing happening quarterly. There is no testing happening between those quarterly reports. And now the Ministry of Health has asked Aqua to do testing monthly through January through March, which has occurred. And moments ago was indicated what those results, you've already indicated January 2025, February 2025, and March 2025 test results have not exceeded 100. I'm just confirming that that's what I heard.
Your worship, to answer your question, that is correct. There was no monthly samples taken between the quarterlies in 2023 and 2024.
Okay,
And
and,
under- yeah,
and so I was
and
looking,
has commenced as of January 2025 and will continue to occur until the Ministry of Health is satisfied and reduce it or removes that restriction.
okay, thank you. And so I was clarifying the information that Councilor Meadows is asking for is the test results from January 2025, February 2025, and March 2025, because there are no other documentations in 2024.
Your worship, to answer your question, the only documentation in 2024 is the quarterly results. As of January 2025, those results I gave you for each month are the averages of the 4 samples per month.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Meadows, you may continue.
Thank you. This is where I was getting at with this fact was since those periods of times were not looked at, there could have been during that period of time there could have been higher elevations during each month period than because we don't have that data. As soon as that exceedance hit of 126 back in July 2023, we should have been looking at a monthly process at that particular time, but it was overlooked. That's what I was getting at. Anyway, to get back on topic here, with point of order. I'm trying to get some questions across, and again, you two are talking over me, and I find it a bit of an annoyance.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Meadows. Your point of order is not well taken. I do allow sidebars from this council, and you regularly.
That's not a sidebar when you're disrupting my speech here, okay?
Thank you. I was just clarifying with the deputy mayor that you provided inaccurate dates again. So that was all I was trying to provide. To the
Well,
deputy mayor.
then you call pointed clarification and you correct me, okay? You don't
Thank you,
do a
Councillor
sidebar
Meadows.
and
As chair, I don't need to call a point of clarification. I can just interrupt you. But
whatever,
to the,
interrupt me and say that I'm providing wrong information.
Gentlemen, we are not going through this today. We are not going through points of order endlessly. As chair, I'm directing individuals to ask their questions. I have permitted sidebars throughout council.
Whatever. Let me go.
Councillor Meadows, I have the floor. I am simply stating that points of orders are not going to be well taken this afternoon for things that each of us do all the time. You may continue, Councillor Meadows.
Thank you, Your Worship. With regards to, I guess it's page. Oh shoot, I just lost it. I just missed it. There was a bunch of work done on the Colgan system. UV repairs, pump repairs. I just wanted clarification on that. Were all the service that's done on these systems, is it billed through the township? Is it billed to the township? There was substantial work done. It even states here, oh, here it is, description of major expenses during the reporting period to install, repair, replace required equipment this is for the Colgan system. Distribution repairs, water box repairs, chemical pump heads, generator repairs and loading testing, UV inspection and servicing, probes and caps, PLC replacement, and asset validation. Was that all billed to the municipality?
Your Worship, and in response to the Councillor Meadows, some is and some isn't. So the developer, if they required upgrades for their system to make it run fully, like upgrades to the PLC, I believe they paid for that. The pump heads and UV inspection, that eventually made its way to the Township of Adjala. And distribution repairs is also Township of Adjala pays for it. It's your water system and we operate it and we maintain it. I hope that answers your question.
It answers my question, but I'm not happy with the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We all know that the THEs exceeded the limits, and I know that it's a big bone of contention with me because I've been watching these THC levels for the past, probably 6 years within this system. 3 years back, going back, they were at about 31. Then they were at about 65, about 3 or 4, might even be longer, 5 years back. And I was talking to the engineer we had on staff at the time with regards to this. And he stated that one of the reasons this could be happening is because it could possibly be turning into a goodie aquifer. And he was quite concerned with that. And that's the reason why the THMs have been increasing. Goodies have a higher rate of having high trihalomethane levels than any other aquifer. And I'm just wondering, is this the case? Do you see this as something that possibly could be causing this effect on this particular well?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Meadows. It's not yet to be determined if it's Goody or not, the wells in the Weka. We're doing our research and doing these monthly samples, trying to get to the bottom of it. We're going to see where the worst parts for THMs are in the system, and we'll move backwards from there. But this time we cannot say it's currently Goody or not. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh.
All right, Richard, you have to use mic.
We have online.
It's been a long time since I was before council. Through the mayor to Councillor Meadows, it's although Aqua does, again, I stated earlier, Aqua has we have a team of engineers. Goody or non-Goody status is something that can only be qualified by a professional engineer. And back when Walker didn't happen, you'll probably recall that all of the systems in Ontario went through that process of what they are. And many times, even non-Goody wells were classified as Goody so that they could attract more equipment and more robust equipment, or they were treated as surface water because they didn't want to go through, the municipality might not have wanted to go through the in-depth process of having their well either Goodied or non-Goodied, for lack of a better term. So they went that route of saying they were Goody and proceeding with putting chemically assisted filtration, which you would typically see in a surface water plant. So again, long story to say that the only people that can say whether we are Goody or non-Goody, it's really not for Aqua staff to say that. It would be through the help of a professional engineer and retaining that.
Supplemental to that then, is this something council should be looking at to find out whether it's turning into a Goody aquifer, or is it something Aqua is actively looking into?
We are certainly actively, sorry again, through your worship, to the councillor, we are certainly actively pursuing from our end, what we can do. And there may be a recommendation that may come to council that says we need to pursue this a little further. And I would suggest that the commissioning of another well is a step towards that.
Oh, and that's where I was going to get at with regards to later on was, should we be proactive into looking into a new well? Because this has been getting higher and higher. Like I said, it started off at 31, went up to 65, and now I've seen it's jumped up to 126. That is got red flags for me.
Certainly, and through the councillor, your worship again to the councillor, just in response, I would say that, and it's a very short sample period, there have been some improvements, and I would suggest that the enhanced flushing is certainly paying dividends that way, but may or may not be a long-term solution. I don't want to sound like I'm on the fence on everything here, but
well, I know aeration is also another solution to put a Band-Aid on a situation, and actually too much flushing is also not a good thing, because your trihalomethane levels go up when you're flushing the system because it interacts with the treated water. So
there can be some error. There can be some error that is involved in that. That's correct. But I would say it's a general statement that flushing is a proven remedy for. You're more likely to develop THMs in your distribution system through stagnant water than you would be through moving the water.
Now there's another, what about bromodichloroform methanes?
Yeah,
does that coincide with the trihalomethanes?
I probably don't. I'm not the best person to answer that, with all due respect.
Okay.
Councillor.
Yeah, because I didn't see any indication that we were testing for that. So I was told that that coincides with the trihalomethanes sometimes, and we should be getting a handle on that one as well. So
thank you.
I guess that's it for that particular question. Now to Rosemont, though. Rosemont, you were going on about the sodium levels. The sodium levels, since I've been sitting on this council, have been high. They've over-exceeded the limit, and I know you say that they don't have any health effects. They don't have any health effects with people who do not have heart conditions. me having a heart condition, I have to watch my sodium intake, and water, when it's that high, there's supposed to be a health regular sent out to people who have heart conditions in that portion of the municipality when the sodium rates exceed. I've seen sodium levels over in Rosemont twice the regulated amounts. So I've been told that nobody over there has ever received any information from the health department with regards to that, and no information with regards to that through the township or Aqua. So I'd just like your take on that, please.
Your worship, to Councillor Meadows, I'd like to clarify, when I was talking about sodium, I just said we were required to sample for sodium every 5 years, and that it's reportable as an adverse water quality incident every 6 months. Sodium levels in Rosemont are historically high at the levels that you have stated. In 2021 was the last 60-month 5-year sample that we took under the Public Works at that time, and in consultation with the Ministry of Health, they had suggested including a public notice of increased sodium levels with the I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you receive water bills every 2 months or 3 months or 4 months, or how that is distributed, but they'd recommend with the first water bill every 4 months, thank you. With the first water bill of every month, the notice that was provided by Aqua to the township at the time was to be provided with the bills. Okay, 3, sorry. So I can send that letter to the Public Works Department again to include as part of the bill that the residents receive in that specific drinking water
My
system.
residents have not received anything over there, and it's bothersome for me to know that, especially with me with a heart condition. So it hits home.
So I can resend that.
Thank you.
That letter that was provided by the Ministry of Health to the Public Works Department again to include with the tax bills. Or sorry, not the tax, the tax bills or the water bills, sorry, yes.
Thank you. And I noticed there's a lot of flushing going on in Rosemont through the report. Is there any reason why it seems to be more flushing going on in Rosemont than any other system? Is there something going on up there that I don't know about or we don't know about? Seems to be a lot going on with flushing of lines and stuff like that up there.
Your worship, to Councillor Meadows, I believe that it's standard practice with Aqua in this township because the groundwater in Simcoe County is relatively hard. As a proactive approach to any community complaints regarding discolored water, we've I don't know if there's a formal contract to do monthly flushing. At most drinking, that it would be to flush out any iron or.
Does that include large water systems as well within the township?
Your worship, to Councillor Meadows, currently we flush monthly in our small municipal drinking water systems. The other systems, WECA and Everett, are biannually, although WECA is now being done monthly because of the THMs. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Supplementary through the mayor to Councillor Meadows. We'll certainly look into whether there is anything specifically that is going on that is increasing the flushing levels. I would say that when folks are flushing, it's certainly a noticeable activity, and especially in a small community, if people see it, they're going to report it and see it. I would say generally also that flushing is a good best practice in any water system. Outside of some of the issues the councillors identified, again, it's a very, very common practice and a very good practice. Very seldom do we get complaints about overflushing as opposed to underflushing.
A couple residents in Hockley that are finding every time you flush their systems, they have vast amounts of sediment sitting at the bottom of their filtration systems. And they're going through filters over there like every 3-4 weeks because the system is just full of sediment. So I don't know what's going on over there, but when you brought forward the E. coli problem over there, it didn't surprise me. Didn't surprise me in the least. And I know you said it was probably from a bottle contamination, but if you see some of the sediment coming out of those pipes, you would second guess what I have to say about that. I guess that's it about for my questions right at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I have Deputy Mayor Laux. Okay. Councillor Simpson.
Through the chair, just I guess a question for Aqua. Do you guys currently classify Colgan as being on a Goody Aquifer?
Your worship, to Councillor Simpson, they have been designated as Goody Wells by a well technician.
Okay, thank you. I know that was a bone of contention in the past, so thank you.
Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Laux.
Just on your, through the chair, your standard operating guidelines, like you mentioned earlier, how long have those guidelines been in effect? Like, are they renewed every 5 years, or is this something that's you guys have been doing forever, and that's how we do what we do? It's kind of a broad question, but.
Your worship, to Councillor Laux, guidelines on, is there a guideline on something specific?
Oh, like you just have your standard operating guidelines. How long, like, do you review them every 5 years? Have they been standing for 20 years? And that's kind of what we do, is what I'm trying to get to.
Through the mayor, in answer to Councillor Laux. So Aqua works, and this is going to sound corporate-y, but Aqua works on a continuous improvement cycle. So our SOPs, anytime that there is an emerging issue, our compliance team in Toronto will have a look at it, and it might probably usually feeds up through local operations, spread across the agency. We vet it and make sure that we're doing everything per guidelines, per regulations. So those SOPs are all fed through that process, and it's looked at a high level and approved at a high level and then rolled out to the field. So it's a continuous improvement cycle. We do it. It's an ongoing exercise. I meet with our EMT group tomorrow. It's a standing agenda item there. So it happens all the time, and answer your question.
Okay, so it's an evolving.
Absolutely. Yep.
Fluid.
Yep. Yeah. And if something changes, our compliance team, again, it's a big team at corporate, probably, I don't know how many folks are there, 50, probably at least. They'll meet as new emerging issues come up or new regulations come up, and then we'll react to that and roll out SOPs to the field.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Meadows?
Yeah, I've just got a question with regards to efficiencies and stuff, or deficiencies. Are we deficient on anything right at the moment? Like, what would you classify our water system as? Good, fair, good, excellent throughout the township as far as maintenance needed to be done? Is there anything we should be doing proactively to make things better?
Your worship, to Councillor Meadows, I think infrastructure and maintenance and requirements are an ongoing thing that Aqua puts forward as a capital plans to council year to year, and we include recommendations from MECP reports and operators and Aqua. I would classify based on the MECP reports where there have been numerous 100% over the last 5-10 years, that the drinking water systems in Adjala are operating at the appropriate level to provide your residents with safe drinking water. Regulations change and we have to adapt to those changes. And if a change will occur that requires, capital spending or whatnot, we would put forward that to council, I would imagine.
And wastewater facilities?
I'm not sure if that's the topic. It would be the same process.
Same process.
I don't know if we're talking about wastewater facilities.
No,
in
this is
meeting.
mainly water facilities, but you look after both, so you're here.
Through the mayor to Councillor Meadows, more specifically, all of your assets, the township's assets, are captured in Aqua's WMS system. So there is actually a condition of each of your assets tag numbered, and it'll rate your assets from poor up to new. So you can get a condition report out of that system that will tell you, it'll give you a specific to each of your process trains. It's not as general to say that Adjala's water system is in excellent condition, but it will give you can tease that out of that system that will tell you each of the pieces of equipment, which will give you a general idea what that's like. And to my colleague's point, the very idea of drinking water system inspections and the ministry's protocol is to, although they will not say that you have a safe water, a safe system based on the report at that time and space, if it's a 100%, it's inferred that you're in good shape, at least during that period of time.
I don't like inferral sitting in jail if I'm found guilty of something. So that's why I sit here and I ask these questions and read reports. I see these deficiencies. I don't like what I saw in this report. I don't like the way it was presented, especially to council and to the public. And us being deficient in 2023 and only hearing about it in 2025, I find that very, very troubling. And I'm glad to see that you guys are going to do better in reporting and bringing it to our council. But that still doesn't state in this fact here that, this is a very bad deficiency that was found. And we are the ones that are responsible, not Aqua, not anybody. You do the reporting, you bring the reports to council. But it's us sitting here, the ones that are going to be paying the piper in the end. You don't go to jail, I go to jail. So I just want to make that clear. And for me to turn around and say I'm micromanaging staff and I'm micromanaging people and I'm micromanaging engineers really gets my goat. Because I'm not micromanaging, I'm getting the facts. And I'm presenting the facts to the people. I'm being transparent, I'm being open, and I'm still getting into trouble over it. So this whole thing has got me irked. It really does. So anyways, that's my piece.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? I just actually have a couple other ones for myself, just indicating, comment more or less, I guess. So we passed our capital budget for 2025, and there was over $130,000 in capital upgrades to our water systems, and Aqua does perform those capital upgrades for us, and those knock off some of the top priorities on the capital wish list, I'll call it, for those wells. And then the last question I have is with our water systems, and it has been commented here that we have good water systems. Are there any active orders from the ministry on any of our wells? Have we received any, are there any orders to comply on any of our wells at the present time?
Your worship, to answer your question, if you're referring to provincial orders, there's no provincial orders from the ministry on any of the Adjala-Tosorontio drinking water systems.
Okay, so all the wells are inspected and have no orders from the ministry for any deficiencies.
Your worship, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further questions or comments? I've not, unfortunately, no, Bill. Okay, seeing no other questions from council, thank you very much for coming in today and providing these detailed answers for us. And I appreciate staff's cooperation in arranging this meeting and for council to arrange this in such a quick turnaround from last Wednesday. So I do appreciate that. So moving on to the recommendation then. There is a recommendation that the staff report IND 2025-008 dated March 12, 2025 regarding 2024 drinking water regulatory reports be received and accepted. And do I have a mover for that recommendation? I'm looking for a mover, Deputy Mayor Laux. And do I have a seconder, please? Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Cox. Okay, and Councillor Meadows, you had a question?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion if I could.
An amendment?
Amendment to that?
Yeah, okay, and what's the amendment?
I would like to put a motion forward regarding water quality and public notification in Loretto, whereas trihalomethane levels in the WECA system have increased at an alarming rate, reaching 126 UGL, exceeding the Ontario drinking water standard of 100 UGLs. And therefore, the township has an obligation to provide safe drinking water and keep residents informed of any potential health risks. And whereas council has not been informed in a timely manner by Aqua and township staff regarding water quality deficiencies, be it resolved that township staff investigate and report on alternate water sources for Loretto settlement area, including feasibility, cost estimates, and implementation timelines on a new well. A detailed report shall be presented to council no later than June 2025. And furthermore, township staff identify and assess treatment methods to reduce THMs levels in Loretto water system, including associated cost and expected effectiveness. A report with recommendations shall be presented to council no later than June 2025. And whereas any time THM levels exceed or approach the Ontario standard 100 UGLs, residents and council must be notified within 10 business days through email, mail, township media, and website updates. Notifications shall include the recorded THM levels, sample number and date, potential health impacts, and steps the township has taken to address the issue, and any precautions residents should take. And whereas the first THM exceedance should have been publicly reported July 2023, all Loretto residents shall receive an official notice in their next water bill, April 2025, detailing the issue and the township's planned remediation efforts, and a full detailed report explaining to the residents of Loretto what trihalomethanes are and the side effects. And furthermore, township staff shall submit a quarterly report on THM levels and any other water or wastewater quality deficiencies to council with monthly readings with sample data and levels as set out by the Ontario guidelines. These reports shall be presented at council meetings and posted on township websites quarterly for public transparency. And I'll move that.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Simpson? Yeah, thank you. All right, I'm sure there would be some questions and concerns here from council, perhaps. I do have concerns, so I'm just looking for some clarification. We put a new well in WECA not too long ago. It hasn't been commissioned yet, right? That's not commissioned until 2027, I believe, or something like that in the report. So I'm just looking through maybe to Aqua, maybe you could help me out here. If we've already drilled a new well, would we have to drill a new well?
Your worship, to answer your question, a new well was drilled in 2023. The ministry has to provide approval to include it in the permit to take water, in which a new permit to take water was issued for the WECA drinking water system for the replacement well, the new well that was drilled. It's currently After that, it has to be included in the municipal drinking water license. There's currently an application made by the company that has drilled the well to include that in the municipal drinking water license. That application is under review by the ministry right now, and once approved, the well may be placed into service. We are expecting that the well will be online within the next few months.
Okay, thank you. So
It will be online in 2025 pending approval from the ministry.
Okay, so just so clarification purpose here. So we've drilled a new well in 2023. That will eventually be connected to the system, decommissioning one of the existing wells in Colgan then, I'd imagine, or sorry, in Weka and Loretto. So we'd still maintain 3 active wells. Is that my understanding?
Your worship, that's correct. The new well will replace the former, it was called Loretto well 3, and will be replaced at Pump House 3 with the new well 3.
Okay. Have we had any initial testing on that raw water?
Your worship, to answer your question, testing would have been completed by Burnside that drilled the well. I'm not 100% sure on all of the samples and the results that were completed, as that's an external contractor.
Okay, thank you. So staff would have that information. Thank you. All right, Councillor Meadows.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is this in a different aquifer or the same aquifer? This new well?
Your worship, to answer Councillor Meadows, it's in the same aquifer.
Well, if the trihalomethane levels are high in that aquifer, why makes this well going to be any different? The aquifer is the aquifer, and you're drawing the well. It's like putting another straw in another glass. So you're eventually going to have high trihalomethane levels. What I was asking for in the report is possibly look at new sources of water for the area. It could be a new well, could be connecting into the big pipe from Georgian Bay. I don't know, but we have to find a new water supply, not the same aquifer.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Does everyone understand the amendment? So I guess I'm just looking for clarification and through to Councillor Meadows. You're suggesting staff report on feasibility and only feasibility. Is that my understanding on these things? Because like we're not committing any dollars to implement procedures or changes.
Well, Your Worship, here's what we have. We have a Goody aquifer in Colgan. We have a Goody aquifer in Loretto. We have high consumption on both of them. And if you want any, there's eventually going to be more growth coming to the area. And when your trihalomethane levels are starting to increase in Loretto, we have to have some sort of feasibility study on water for the area, because I'd rather be proactive in this situation going down the road and have some options in front of us that staff have provided. And I don't want to be leaving this to the last minute like everything else. I think we should be proactive in this township in looking into the water and wastewater of the township. And without it, you can't do any building. People are going to get sick. And I don't think that's the right thing for this council to do. I've mentioned this before. Anyway, the motion's there. I think it was pretty straightforward, and I don't know why it would be an issue. I mean, we're just looking for alternate water sources, and also informing the public when there's problems.
Thank you. Well, I do understand the concern there, Councillor Meadows, but again, I don't hold the same opinion that we're not informing anyone of problems, because we do. And the drinking and the annual reporting of drinking water is exactly why that's why legislation has been put in place, so that these reports are public, that all the concerns or issues in a year have been addressed. And I might also add that, again, with our capital budget process, Aqua does submit to us an itemized list of capital projects to make repairs and to install new equipment in our drinking water systems, so that we maintain these systems to provide safe drinking water to our residents, which we are doing. So I don't share the concern that we haven't we're not providing inadequate drinking water. Are there concerns in this report? Yes, they've been addressed by Aqua already. They've been acknowledged by Aqua at the start of the presentation that there was some report errors. So we've addressed those items. We're going to continue to address these in our wastewater and water budgets and capital projects in future years. And my concern was that I could certainly support the idea of getting a report, but that report would outline the next steps and not council directing what the next steps are. So I'd be okay with having that amendment to say that staff report back on operational enhancements or something to that degree, so that council can see the vision of what we want to do. But to say that this is what we're going to do without any report on this desk, I can't support that. I might also say that Aqua is one of the biggest agencies in Ontario that does this for multiple municipalities. And we get the reporting on time through our infrastructure and development division. So that information is available. And any adverse effects like order to oil water advisory is in fact implemented right away once those test results come back. So I don't share the opinion that we're in a situation where we need to look at this. And again, without having that new well come online yet, I'm not sure if anybody in this room can tell me what that costs, but that's not cheap to drill a new well and to decommission an existing well. So I'd rather wait and see what that well is able to provide us, because that may help us in the long term instead of looking at other options. So I'm going to go to, I believe I have Councillor Cox up, and then I believe I saw Councillor Borzo's hand.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Meadows. Would I actually be able to hear the whole motion again? There was a lot after the motion, and no offense, there's just a lot in the one motion. I just want to make sure I'm tracking everything that was actually put forward here.
Yeah, sure. I can read it again. I have no problem reading it. I would like to put a motion forward regarding water quality and public notification in Loretto, whereas trihalomethane THM levels in the WECA system have increased at an alarming rate, reaching 126 UG/L, exceeding the Ontario drinking water standard of 100 UG/L. And therefore, the township has an obligation to provide safe drinking water and keep residents informed of any potential health risks. And whereas council has not been informed in a timely manner by Aqua and township staff regarding water quality deficiencies. Be it resolved that township staff investigate and report on alternate water sources for Loretto settlement area, including feasibility, cost estimates, and implementation timelines. A detailed report shall be presented to council no later than June 2025. And furthermore, township staff identify and assess treatment methods to reduce THM levels in Loretto water system, including associated costs and expected effectiveness. A report with recommendations shall be presented to council no later than June 2025. And whereas anytime THM levels exceed or approach the Ontario standard 100 UG/L, residents and council must be notified within 10 business days through email, mail, township media, and website updates. Notifications shall include the recorded THM level, sample number and date, potential health impacts, and steps the township has taken to address the issue, and any precautions residents should take. And whereas the first THM exceedance should have been publicly reported July 2023, all Loretto residents shall receive an official notice in the next water bill, April 2025, detailing the issue and the township's planned remediation efforts, and a full detailed report explaining to the residents of Loretto on what trihallomethanes are and their side effects. And furthermore, township staff shall submit a quarterly report on THM levels and any other wastewater quality deficiencies to council, with monthly readings with sample dates and levels as set out by Ontario guidelines. These reports shall be presented at council meetings and posted on township website quarterly for public transparency.
Councillor Cox?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Meadows. I clearly understand it now. Just for the two things on it, so you want a feasibility study done, and secondly, the sampling reports for the THMs, I believe it's being done monthly now, but what if it's not being done monthly? How are they going to put it into a report if it's already, if it's compliant and we're not receiving those monthly, but they had actually come, I believe it's quarterly, correct?
That's correct. Then we report them quarterly on our website to the public.
Okay, so for the
So
staff,
the THM levels shall be recorded on a quarterly basis to our public, so they know what's happening, because the levels are high.
yeah, I just want to make sure that was clear, because I know they're only doing it monthly now, but the regulation states that it's quarterly once it's compliant.
Whether they're 60 or whether they're 80 or whether they're 100, 80's high. 80's still a high level. So people should at least know what's in their drinking water. They're paying for it. They should know what's in it.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions or comments with regards to the amendment? Sorry, I did have a list here, actually. Sorry. I should read the list, right? I have Councillor Borzos and then Deputy Mayor Laux.
Take you through the chair. Just a quick question for Aqua. Would you have the quarterly numbers for 24-25 sampling? So Q2 and I guess Q3 and 4 for 24, and then this year? I remember you quoted something around 65, 66 for the monthly, roughly around an average of 65 for the first 3 months of 2025. But I was just wondering what the numbers may have been, or maybe from last year for the one that hasn't, the annual report that hasn't concluded yet. Yeah, of course. Yeah, go right ahead. And while you're looking for that, I was wondering if I could just have a brief comment on the motion, if I may.
Certainly.
Sure. You're a councillor.
Well, I mean, treading lightly here, you know how it is. I'm in a crossfire sometimes. So. In general, I don't have I'm a supportive of the motion, but I'd like to make a friendly amendment and remove the last 2 paragraphs there. I think those are, first of all, incorrect. Secondly, unnecessary. I think you mentioned in the first one that I referred to, the second last one, is that July 2023 being the first over the limit. It's not
That's
over.
correct.
It's not over the
Yes,
limit.
it was.
It's 92.
No,
It's
the
not
first
100.
July 2023, according to the report, it was an overage.
Well, it was 90. Anyways, I think we are talking.
It was 95.
Okay, so it's not 100, which is the limit. I mean, technically, Aqua can only work with data. That's the data there's a limit, there's a reason why they do this. So anyways, that would be my recommendation or request that for me to support it.
Well,
I would have
I'm
to-
only going by what page 56 or page 117, or sorry. No, it was page 56 of the report stated. Let me just read the report.
I'm just going by the numbers.
Well, I'm
90
going, I wrote everything off the report.
92
so.
is less than 100.
Well, let me just read what the report says. It says on November 29th, 2024, during data review, it was noted that the running annual average for trihalomethane exceeded the maximum acceptable concentration 100 UGL for the period of July 2023 to April 2024. The notification of exceedance was not immediately made within the 7 days as required under the regulations.
I believe the motion, the way you have it prepared, reads as July being the first month of being high, which is,
That's what I just read.
but it's not, that's
What does this say then?
Okay.
It says on November 29th,
Councillor Meadows,
2024.
Councillor Meadows,
No, he's asking for clarification. I'm reading the report, and the report is stating for the period of July 2023 to April 2024, it exceeded the maximum acceptable concentration of 100.
correct. But
That's exactly what it says there in the report.
Motion reads as,
The first THE exceedance should have been publicly reported July 2023. All Loretto residents.
Stop right there. How could they report the 23, July 23 being high when the number for July 23 was only 92, so technically it was below. This is what I'm talking about, like intricate details, but
Okay,
what you're saying
okay,
is incorrect.
Then I'll change it July 2023
For the,
to April,
or call it a running annual average for 23, 24.
to
I think
April
it's more
2024. No, I'll just put what it says in the report. Publicly reported July 2023 to April 2024. Thank you.
And but I still believe that those two paragraphs are unnecessary. But
Well,
they serve
those are
no
the two
purpose, but-
paragraphs. I won't take them out.
Okay. Thank you.
You know, like if you don't want to vote for it, that's totally up to you.
No, it's okay.
okay, is that all the concerns you have?
And just
Sorry, the
maybe
follow-up
good
question?
people of
or the
Aqua,
first
if
question?
they have an answer for me.
Yes, sorry. Your worship, to Councillor Bozo. So in July 2024, the sample result was 60 micrograms per liter. In October 2024, the result was 35 micrograms per liter. In January 2025, it was 66.9 micrograms per liter. If you,
Then the last.
so when you're calculating a running annual average, you're basically dropping the last one on when you add on your new sample results. So I can tell you, sorry,
The average,
let me go.
I mean, somewhere
So-
around 55 to 60-ish.
Yes. So in July 22nd, 2024, when the new July results were included, the annual running average dropped to 93.3 micrograms per liter. When we took the sample results in October 2024, you drop off one of the quarters and add the Octobers in, the annual running average dropped to 81.8 micrograms per liter. And then when we took the sample results in January of 2025, your annual running average dropped to 66.9 micrograms per liter. The exceedance only occurred in April of 2024 based on the previous 4 quarters of sample results, including the April 2020. Oh, I can't even say it now. 2024 sampling
Quickly to
results.
supplement to this, so if I'm reading the stats and the numbers in the correct way, then we are showing a nicely decreasing trend here, really, because that's what we are seeing. We had a peak in what seems to be about a year, or January of last year, at 126, and then April, and then from there, everything has been settling down and gradually decreasing. Correct? Is that a safe assumption?
Your worship, to answer Councillor Borzos's question, currently it is decreasing. I think one of the issues with the WECA system is that the sampling results are all over the place. So the point of the Ministry of Health's guidance was to figure out in which month and in which sample locations are we seeing these spikes. The spikes have occurred out of 41 quarters that we've been sampling for the township of Adjala and Weka, have only exceeded 4 times out of 41 sample results, single sample results, which aren't an exceedance of or an adverse water quality incident. They're single sample spikes, I would say. So sorry, 4 times that it's gone over 100 micrograms per liter.
You're talking about the quarterly single test that was higher than 100, and out of the 4, 2 of them were last year. It would have been 106 and 126.
Your worship, to Councillor Borsos, that would be correct. In January 2024 and April 2024, we experienced these spikes, which contributed to a higher running annual average.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Laux.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship. And once again, I believe just the wording needs to be corrected. Otherwise, I can't support it because you're asking me to support something that seems like two or three paragraphs long. As Councillor Borzo said, you talked about July, where I'm reading the same report. It says July 23 was 92 UGL. October was 81. January was 126 with the spike, and April was 106 with the spike, which gave the annual run the running annual average to the 101.25. Then with the report at the bottom, reading, I believe we're at the level of ideally overall now 81.75, and then as the WEC or Aqua has explained, January was 66.75, February was 55.25, March was 64.75 for the readings that they've now stepped up because of the issue that happened. So I'm actually fairly pleased that the numbers have come down that far. So if we could just tighten up this amendment somehow, I could possibly support it, but I can't support something that took you 10 minutes to read for me to try to comprehend to say yes or no to. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Through the chair, I think Councillor Meadows, you may be to say that the running annual average exceedance, which started in July 2023 until April 2024, and that may satisfy members of council who are on the fence on the motion.
Sure. I'm with that.
As well.
Okay, so I'm just clarifying at what part in the motion was that?
The second paragraph, I believe.
Yeah.
And what are we changing?
Just saying the first THCM exceedance was.
So instead of saying the first THM exceedance, we're going to say the running annual average exceedance, which began on July 2023 and ended on April 2024.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that that's, again, changing the tone of the motion.
I think that's just a preface. I don't think it matters to the motion itself.
It's basically saying exactly the same thing. The first THM exceedance should have been publicly reported.
It's changing it from annual reporting, and it's changing dates. So that's it's different than.
It's the same dates. 2023 to April 2024 is the first exceedance.
The running average.
Running average.
Measured from July 2023 to April of 2024? Sure. Yeah.
But even with the change, I'm hearing from several members of council that wouldn't matter then if that's the case. Dates aren't, that wording is not going to change the dynamics of the last two paragraphs. Councillor Cox, I'll go to you. You're on mute.
Sorry, the click didn't go through. Through the chair to Council Meadows, I just want to confirm the feasibility study, like staff will do that through like our potentially through a contract with Aqua, and it's not like an engineer water feasibility study that's going to be
correct. Just through the reports
through
are
staff.
Aqua and staff.
Okay, that was my only question.
So I'm going to go to Mr. Wergel on this. So I'm looking at the recommendation here that the first section of that, if I understood correctly, Councillor Cox, alternate water sources is something the township would seek and not Aqua. They would have no authority to initiate conversations with anyone in Ontario on our behalf to find alternative water sources. So I'm looking Mr. Wergel or Mr. Johnstone, like, are we asking them to do that? Or would that be staff initiated?
Worship, I believe that would be staff would be undertaking the study with the services of our engineers.
Okay. Does that further clarify your question there, Councillor Cox?
Yes, I just wanted to confirm that we weren't proceeding with like a full brand new tender for an engineered study for water. It was within in-house.
I just want to, just for clarification, I just wanted us to start looking like in staff with the new CAO, with staff at this time is just basic because these levels are going up and eventually they're going to catch up to us and then we're going to have to make a decision. So, sorry? Yeah, but look at the time period they're coming back down.
The whole year.
Yeah, but we've had, if it's turning into a goodie aquifer is groundwater under direct influence. So whenever it snows, large rainfalls or whatever, that's what fills the void for your aquifer, okay? This year, we've had more snow and more rain and more water into the system than we usually get per year. So your levels are gonna be lower because your water table is higher. When you get a drawdown on that aquifer, then you're gonna have higher levels. That's the way an aquifer works. Well,
so again, I appreciate the clarification and the question, Councillor Borzos. We had already heard through this presentation earlier in the staff reporting that was maybe not the case, that has not been engineered to that. So we would have to confirm that it is in fact under direct influence and not necessarily that.
And they're looking into it.
Right, and you made the comment that it is.
No, I didn't. I said, I explained to him what a goodie aquifer is. I didn't say this aquifer is, I said.
Sorry, Councillor Meadows, you did. You mentioned that twice actually earlier too, when you said you included Colgan and Loretto in the same sentence previously, that you indicated that was the case.
I'd like the motion to be tabled. I think we're just confusing the issue at this point.
You'd like to table the motion?
I'd like for us to vote on the motion, yes.
It's two different things. Do you want to
I'd like
table it
us
or
to
do you want to vote on it?
I'd like for us to vote on the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a second to call the question?
I'll call the question and I'll also ask for a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay. So the question's been called by Councillor Simpson and Councillor Meadows. And a recorded vote, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk. Sorry, just before you go to that, so just to confirm, this is an amendment to the main motion. So this is just the amendment from Councillor Meadows.
So just to clarify, through your worship to council, we are calling a recorded vote on the amendment to the main motion, starting with Councillor Meadows. In favor or against?
In favor?
Councillor Borzos, in favor or against?
Against.
Councillor Cox, in favor or against?
In favor.
Councillor O'Leary is absent. Councillor Simpson, in favor or against?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Laux in favor or against?
Against?
And Mayor Anderson in favor or against?
Against?
That's 3 in favor, 3 against.
Thank you. The motion fails. 3-3. All right, so we're back to the main motion. Does anyone need me to read the main motion again?
Please.
Okay, thank you. So it's that staff report IND 2025-008 dated March 12, 2025 regarding 2024 drinking water regulatory reports be received and accepted. Any further questions or comments on that?
I'd like to call a recorded vote on that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Meadows. I just wanted to also acknowledge that those records are already on our website. So if anyone is interested in seeing those. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Meadows in favor or against?
Against?
Councillor Borzos in favor or against?
In favor.
Councillor Cox in favor or against?
In favor.
Councillor O'Leary is absent this afternoon. Councillor Simpson in favor or against?
Against.
Deputy Mayor Laux in favor or against?
In favor?
And Mayor Anderson in favor or against?
In favor?
That's 4 in favor, 2 against.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-2. All right, the next item is our confirmation bylaw, and that's bylaw 2025-021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Township of Adjala-Tosorontio at a special council meeting held on March 18, 2025 be enacted. Do I have a mover, please? I have Councillor Cox and seconded by Deputy Mayor Laux. All those in favor? That is carried. And before I adjourn the meeting, I was remiss in mentioning this at the start of the meeting, and I do apologize. I did want to acknowledge that we, although living in the Alliston community, we did lose a valuable member of our community and of New Tecumseh, Mr. Paul Whiteside, last week. Mr. Whiteside served on the Police Services Board alongside myself and other members of council. And he was also the town treasurer for New Tecumseh for many years and served on the hospital board and a lot of other committees and associations. So I just want to extend our sorrow to the Whiteside family and to his daughter Janice, who does also sit on one of our committees. So I do want to acknowledge that this afternoon. And with that being said, we are adjourned at 6:13 p.m. Thank you.